Now, again, just welcome to our panel on Jewess and Youth on Long Island. My name is Dr. Natalia Rogers. I'm a professor at Berkeley College in New York City. But I'm a Long Island resident, and I was a professor on Long Island for many years. I'm also a co-founder and chair of the New York Youth Summit, which used to be Long Island Youth Summit, where schools from all over Long Island students participate, and they come in to discuss and problem solve for topics such as, well, how can we get affordable housing on Long Island? Or what is the future economic development looks like? Now we're doing it regionally in New York City, which is we still have all the students from Long Island coming, and New York City and Westchester. And on that note, I just don't want to take any more time away from our panelists or what they will have to say. We will do introductions. Each one of the panelists will give you their name and tell you in 1 minute what they're doing. And after that, we will start with the round of questions. So once we will complete with panelists, I will open the questions for the floor. And so hopefully we will have plenty of time for you to ask different questions, because that's the whole point of this conference. We want to be interactive. And without further ado, we will start now. So on my right is...
Good morning. My name is Jamie Moore. I'm the president of the Manufacturing Consortium of Long Island. We are a trade association looking to keep manufacturers here and let people know that we actually are here. There are over 3,000 manufacturing companies on the island employing over 70,000 people. We're just not well known for still being here. You get the stories in Newsday saying Grumman left. That happened in the 80s. So there's quite a bit of awareness that we have to do. And we have music that goes with us. So the exciting thing is we're starting to see more and more nationally an emphasis and understanding of the importance of manufacturing. We're trying to replicate that here on Long Island. The thing that you may or may not know is we are the home for some really world-class industry clusters. Aerospace and defense is still here, over 250 companies making parts for the F-18, C-5 cargo planes. We even make the seating tracks when you get on your flight from New York, LaGuardia, down to wherever you're heading to in the south or anywhere else. If you take a seat, the actual big metal casing holding all the seats together and keeping you safe is made here, right here on Long Island. So it's amazing what we do here, and I think my minute's up.
Can you see the panelists, or do you want them to stand up when they are speaking? Stand up? Okay, we're gonna do that because I can't see the back row, and that's not good for interaction. So please speak up, stand up when you...
So hello everyone, I'm Paul Trapani. I am Vice President of ListNet. I'll be taking over as President starting January 1st. ListNet is Long Island Software Technology Network. We've been around for over 21 years, helping promote the tech industry on Long Island to create a strong technology ecosystem. We act as a chamber of commerce for the tech industry. That's not just tech companies, that's any companies that use technology, and we try to make connections. So, for example, connect some of the companies looking to hire interns with some of the schools on Long Island, like St. Joseph's, Hofstra, NYIT, Stony Brook, that have a lot of these students looking for jobs. About a little less than 2 years ago, we created something in Plainview called a Digital Ballpark. It's a co-working and event space. The concept is really big on Long Island, if any of you have heard of WeWork or things like that. And the idea is that companies that are starting out can't do long-term leases. So this gives them the ability to take an office with no long-term commitment, and then they can grow into it. It also gives us a venue to do events and other great things there. We'll talk about it, I'm sure, in the panel, but it's those kind of things that'll get the young people interested and see that there is a lot of great stuff happening on Long Island.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Michael DeChico. I am a recent graduate of St. Joseph's College, 2 weeks in counting, and I am the Access Control Coordinator for North Royal Health Huntington Hospital. So in more simpler terms, I oversee the front-end operations. I'm graduating my degree in hospitality and healthcare, so it's kind of mixing the whole hotel aspect and bringing it to hospitals. And we'll discuss that further.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Xavier Miles. I am a certified therapeutic recreation specialist. I work at Maria Regina in Brentwood, New York. And in my position, I enhance the quality of life for senior citizens through recreation programs. And I'm sure we'll discuss that more in the panel.
Hi, everybody. My name is Ryan Stanton. I'm the political director with the Long Island Federation of Labor. I'm going to talk a little bit about what it is that I do and the work I get to do, but a quick question. Who here is familiar with what apprenticeship is? Apprenticeship? Okay. That's a handful of folks. At some point throughout our history as a region and probably a nation, every hand in the room would have gone up. And I think it's an absolute tragedy that that's not the case today. So I'm here to talk to you about the importance of it. And in short, it's higher education. And it's higher education that's not going to build up debt. It's something that my generation it's a challenge we have to face when we decide whether or not we want to pursue secondary education, higher education, etc. Apprenticeship is an opportunity to pursue that and earn while you learn. So you're going to see a quick video. It's only 2 minutes, so I won't really speak after that. I'll defer to the moderator. But I want you to pay close attention to two individuals, Femi and Hamilton.
Years, like there was really no growth there.
I had just came home from incarceration, and I was kind of confused at life. I thought it was a dead end.
I have a daughter, 3 years old, and I just felt that I wasn't doing the best that I could, even though I was working. I saw a flyer about the Opportunities Long Island program, which was helping people get into construction unions, and I thought that was something that could help me.
People often look at Long Island and they think that it's a wealthy place, but there are areas that have been economically isolated.
We've got to really innovate to help people lift out of that working poor segment.
That's why here at the Long Island Fed, with the building trades, it is our mission to develop sustainable jobs and economic opportunities for young people.
Opportunities Long Island is an apprenticeship preparation training program which allows individuals that are graduating a direct interview for the union apprenticeship. We are targeting neighborhoods where larger redevelopment projects are taking place.
It's giving opportunities to people who live in the community to actually work on the construction.
We're offering them careers, not just a job.
We would much rather invest on the training side than depend upon social services. Low-wage jobs with no benefits really are a detriment to our community.
This is a path for young people to move into that middle class.
They're bringing those paychecks back, giving them an opportunity to earn a living, buy a home, increase the tax structure, and grow a family that'll stay here on Long Island.
It took a while to put it together. We think that in a couple of years it's going to be the best thing that we did. It's almost like a brotherhood. We're all coming from different walks of life.
I honestly believe that this is going to change my life because it's going to make me more of a focused man.
I'm at a point now that I did it. It makes you feel good inside.
When I'm done, I can say I did that and someone's living in that house comfortable.
Before we start with questions, I want to recognize some people in the room. First of all, we want to give a shout out to Dana Pagliazzo, and then there's this fabulous teacher of government from the Amityville High School, and all the students who are here from Amityville High School. Let's give yourself a round of applause. Woo! Then I would like to give a shout out to Dr. Gail Lamberta, with whom I work for many years, and who is a Dean of Community Development in St. Joseph's College. And we want to give a shout out to everyone from St. Joseph's College, the students. Now the students are coming from the classes of Huntington Town Supervisor-elect Chad Lupinacci. He will be back with us, but he always cooperates, and we want to thank him too. And I also want to give a shout out to our fabulous Frank Petron, who is a current supervisor of Town of Huntington. And thank you for your service to Long Island community for many, many years, and keeping Huntington in such a great shape. I'm a Huntington Town resident. So I would like to open the panel with questions to our recent graduates from St. Joseph's College. Because oftentimes when you look at Long Island, we worry a little bit. At least I worry a little bit as a social scientist and a political economist. In the recent 15 to 20 years, we lost almost 50% of population, of young population, between 21 and 35 on the North Shores of Long Island in the wealthier communities. One of the reasons, I bet, would be that no one can afford to live there who is younger and starting with a young salary. We still have young people in the middle of Long Island and on the South Shores of Long Island, and I bet you young people would love to live on the North Shore too, because it's pretty. So one of the first questions that I would like to ask Michael and Xavier is, why did they choose to stay on Long Island? Did they foresee from the beginning that they will be able to find a career or a job that would pay decent living wages? How do you settle on picking your college? Because so many people want to go away. They're like, okay, I grew up here, now I am somewhere else. How did these decisions occur? And the second question, because I wouldn't want to interrupt you once you start talking, the second question will be, how did your local education, which is going to St. Joseph's College, that cares so much about their students and their careers, how did it help you to navigate the job market? I know you had a whole program there, so let's go. And Xavier, I think you should start.
Okay, so originally I did not live on the island. I lived in Rhode Island, next to Massachusetts, and I decided to attend St. Joseph's College because of the therapeutic recreation program. The program is not offered in many colleges, excuse me. So that was one of my attractions to the island. Now, the reason why I stayed was because St. Joseph's afforded me the opportunity to complete an internship. After graduation, I was set on moving. I'm like, I'm going down south. It's cheaper. I could afford it. I can buy a house and work. So I decided to stay on the island because we're completing the therapeutic recreation program at St. Joseph's. I also had to complete an internship, which allowed me to go into a facility and work and learn how actual therapeutic recreation specialists, would all the experiences from the field. And through my internship, I was hired at Port Jefferson Rehab, and then I moved on to Maria Regina. So that is why I stayed on the island.
Hello everyone. So I actually started off at St. Joseph's College. I had no intentions of leaving. I was very confident in my abilities. St. Joseph's is a extremely hands-on facility that lets you do internships. So when I began my internship, I interned at Brookhaven Hospital, Huntington Hospital, and Good Samaritan Hospital, and I was hands-on in everything. Something I've always learned is never to let your title distinguish who you are, so I did everything beyond my title. Even in my current position, I was offered a position at Huntington Hospital. I don't even honestly know my job description. I do everything above it. I like to think of it as I have an indestructible plate. So I'm constantly going to pile up. I'm never going to say no to anything. I'm constantly looking for new experiences, and that's what kind of keeps me going. So I can have a manager next to me. The title is not what keeps me going. It's what I actually do to assist. And I really found my fit in healthcare, so I'm really helping the people to kind of make that patient experience, because people don't only expect clinical care anymore, they want more. You can save their lives, but they want more now. So I'm there to do that, and I really think I found my fit here. Thank you.
So the next question to panelists that I have, I know you guys come from specific areas, such as, unions, manufacturing association, and technology organization. But what are the biggest job growth areas on Long Island? I mean, I can answer the question myself, but I want you to talk about this.
Sure. Well, because I come from a specific area, what I can say is, in terms of growth, we're here talking about community development, and if we're talking about community development, the Long Island Federation of Labor and Opportunities Long Island, we believe that if you're somebody that's working on that project, you should, at the end of the day, be able to afford to live in that. And we heard students from Amityville talk about what's affordable housing. That's a question I've had for a long time. Because what we deem as affordable on Long Island, everyone in this room knows is not actually affordable. So I pointed out two individuals to you guys before I showed the video, referenced Femi and Hamilton. And before I move forward, I'd be remiss if I didn't highlight two partners in the room, Supervisor Frank Petrone and Steve Delegati, who helped us get opportunities Long Island off the ground, so they deserve a round of applause. So I highlighted Femi and Hamilton. And if you caught what Hamilton said, he talked about how he was working at a liquor store in Huntington Station. Hamilton is now an iron worker for Local 580. He's a third-year apprentice. And again, I'll say an apprenticeship it's higher education. You have to have a high school diploma or GED, and you go into the unionized construction industry, and you earn while you learn. The local union, in partnership with union contractors, teach you a trade, teach you a skill that can never be taken away from you. Okay, as a third-year apprentice, as of this week, and I got this 2 weeks ago, Hamilton had earned $111,500. 3 years ago, he was working a dead-end job at a liquor store. Okay, Hamilton's had some difficulty within the legal system throughout his life, and he's gotten his life on track. We firmly believe that if you give people economic opportunity, you give them a career, they get to become a contributing member of society, they get to become a part of their community. Femi, he had applied to Local 25 in the past. He's a youth build graduate from United Way of Long Island, and he's an Opportunities Long Island graduate. Before he pursued those paths, he had applied to Local 25 and he couldn't pass the aptitude exam. He not only passed the aptitude exam, but he's a second-year apprentice with Local 25, and he's now making over $21 an hour plus benefits. So I don't know who's thought about construction, but I'm a college graduate and I didn't go into construction. I have a lot of debt. I'm about to be 30, and I'm one of the few 30-year-olds I know that owns a home here on Long Island. And I can only do that because my wife's a nurse and I have a pretty good job. If I was making $111,000 a year in my early 20s, I wouldn't have debt and I would have owned a home a long time ago. So I'm going a little long here, so I'm gonna wrap up. But all I would say is this is an industry that a lot of people aren't aware of, or their parents, just don't talk about it because we just assume it's a dead end. But the reality is these people are part of your community, they're building your community, and they're making a good wage. It's a career, it's not just a job.
Ryan, on that, I want to ask you a question. So is there really a demand for construction workers, such as iron workers and other trades? Because, it's great that they are making money, I'm happy for them, but how easy it is and how easy it is to find a job once you go through the training program?
So, excellent question. There is a number of development projects across Long Island. We hear about Huntington Station, we hear about Hempstead, Patchogue just went through a significant development. We hear about all these communities that are slated for redevelopment. It's very difficult to ensure that these things go union, and that's a different conversation, but part of what Opportunities Long Island is geared towards is it not only embracing the community, but it's demanding of our elected officials and demanding of developers that it doesn't matter how much brick and mortar we put up. If we put up all that brick and mortar, it's going to sit vacant if people can't afford to live in it. You have to make a living wage, and so it's not only important to provide people the skills, but it's also important to the tax base and to the taxpayers that we don't have budgets that we can't fund. And the way we fund budgets is if we have home buyers. The way we strengthen the tax base is if we have people that have careers. So it's not a walk in the park. You don't just wake up and get these jobs, okay? We have to demand these jobs, and we have to demand these because we have people that have the skills necessary to make sure not only that we build it right, but it's built to last. And the second point is, and it's gonna sound a little contradictory, there are jobs happening and will be demanded for, and these skills are demanded for because we have an aging workforce. The building and construction trades, it's the average, I don't know offhand, but I want to say the average age is in the high 40s. Okay, so it's because for a long time we've been told you graduate high school, you go to college. I went to college, that's the path I went. It's a great one, but it's not necessarily for everybody. And maybe you eventually go to college, but maybe you earn the six-figure salary for a few years, and then you don't have to carry the burden of debt year after year after year. So these are jobs that are becoming available, but we also have to demand that they're available in the right way, because if they're made available to somebody that's going to make $15 an hour, and they're going to pick up and move to Alabama, Tennessee, Arkansas, or they're only in town for that construction job, and they're living in a motel, or they're living out of their car, then we're not building our tax base, and we're sending our economic activity to the south. Everybody talks about how it's more affordable to live down there. Well, that's because all of our economic incentives that fund these projects don't demand that we employ the people here. And we're saying that that's not right. Those are our tax dollars. They should be going to the people in our community, and they should be able to earn a decent wage.
Excellent, Ryan. That was a great comment. Now, Jamie, as a manufacturer's representative, we often are given that impression by people who don't know a lot, that manufacturing is dead in the United States, everything went to China, we're not manufacturing anymore, which is absolutely not true. Manufacturing is not even dead on Long Island. We have, 4,000, you will give us a number, right? Tell us how one can get a living wage by working in manufacturing on Long Island.
All right, so there's a couple of things to talk about here. One, you all are coming in, I see a lot of young faces around the room, you're coming in at the right time. If we look at the population demographics in the United States, 2025 is what's estimated as a pretty significant drop-off in skilled labor across the nation. We see it on shop floors. It's called the graying of the shop floor. In my case, the balding of the shop floor. But really, we need skilled labor. Now, the interesting thing there, and this goes for construction as well, and tech, et cetera, it's not just the quote-unquote getting your hands dirty jobs. And manufacturing is making a big case about it being clean and all robotics and everything else. Don't get it wrong. There are jobs where you're getting your hands dirty, and it's a lot of fun because you're actually creating something that's worthwhile. But there's also jobs in procuring materials. There's jobs in marketing and sales and contract management. There's a ton of stuff that you may not think about when you hear construction or IT or manufacturing, because you may not think it's for you. The other thing is, because of this thinning workforce, there's going to be, it's a seller's market. We need you guys. And we need to look in places we haven't looked before. So all the young women in the audience, we're looking for you in STEM fields, manufacturing, IT, construction, everything. We need you there. So that's one of the big areas that manufacturing leaders have been pushing on and trying to find people. But the other side of it is, how do you get those skill sets? So working with the educational institutions, working with apprenticeships and internships, and frankly, just going into a company and saying you're willing to learn. I was just in a company yesterday called Sensaris over in Hauppauge. They've got 10 people. How they were started was a company with about, 200 or 300 people decided they were going to move to North Carolina. They fired a lot of the top folks in Long Island. One of those gentlemen said, "To heck with this, I'm going to create the same company here," and he hired 9 of his buddies, and they started up, and they're on their way to probably becoming a $10 to $20 million company once they get themselves the next big contract. I mean, it's amazing. I went over there to see what they do. They basically test water levels inside of cylinders using some unique technology is the best way of putting it, but ultrasonics. The interesting thing with them is that they have interns that they're bringing in, and they're teaching them from scratch. In particular, they're looking for somebody to do welding, because the person who does the welding is the president of the company. So I walked in, and there's this 56-year-old guy in a business suit walking over to the welding thing and putting something together before my meeting with him. So there's some really exciting things there. From a welding standpoint, going to the specific jobs that we're looking for from a skill set, welding is really big. It's very hard to find MIG-TIG welders. It's hard to find folks who have the coupons, which is what they call some of the certifications for aluminum, especially for very thin aluminum. You can make a ton of money. My wife owns an aerospace and defense company. About 3 years ago, she tried to hire a welder away from a local company, offered him $132,000 a year. He then went back to his other company, and they raised his salary to, I think, $140,000. And that was before he did overtime. So you're talking about a guy who's making over $200,000 a year doing welding. We're constantly looking for CNC programmers, for machinists, for quality inspectors, anybody who takes any type of a class in measurement and has an understanding of being organized and keeping the paperwork clean and following through. Quality inspection is a huge need, and there's a career path there from quality inspector to quality manager, etc. On the pharmaceutical side, there's a need for blenders. On the metal side, we need assembly folks. And again, procurement, methodizing. Procurement is basically when you're going out and you're finding materials, or you're working with vendors and helping the company out that way. Methodizing is breaking down a job and determining what processes need to be done to get the product out the door and managing that. We have very few of those. So there's a ton of jobs available. It is absolutely worth your time even just to call up a local manufacturer and ask them to come in and just do a walk around with them. And you'll be amazed what's made on the island.
We're nitty-gritty here with all the terminology. So now let's move to technology. And Paul, I want to ask you a question. The technology continues to grow. There's no less technology, there's more technology, we have more need. The percentage of women that graduates with STEM degrees in the United States is 6.7. There's slightly more guys than that, of course, who are graduating. Recently, I had a conversation with Controller Ganopoulos, and he said to me, look, the fastest growing jobs that is high paying in New York State, the job clusters are IT, and it's in Brooklyn, which is great. I'm happy for Brooklyn, but I want to know what's going on Long Island in terms of technology growth. Because, we have all those huge institutions such as Brookhaven National Lab. We have fantastically educated population too, and let us know what about the technology scene.
So you're right. One thing is there needs to be a lot more women in technology because the numbers are very low. There's an increasing demand. Every company uses technology, and they're only going to use more technology. They're not going to use less. I run a CEO group for ListNet. We have about 20 CEOs of software companies. Some of them are large. They employ 50 people or so. And what I hear almost at every meeting is people have trouble finding people for the jobs, programming jobs, IT jobs. I think there was a time when a lot of people were going into it, and then there was a lot of offshoring that went on. That's become part of the industry. What people don't realize is there's people here on Long Island that are managing those offshore people a lot of times. And there's a lot of companies that are not offshoring. They're developing products right here on Long Island. We try to make people aware of those companies. The real growth fields, programming is always a good one, especially when people pair that up with other knowledge like healthcare technology. If you want to go into something that's going to continue to grow, healthcare is really has a lot more to do to automate and to get people's records online, all that stuff. We see that just tremendously. The other big area, cybersecurity. You read in the news almost every day about things getting compromised. So these are things that students can learn and get into and work with that. And we have great institutions on Long Island, great universities like St. Joseph's, like Hofstra, NYT, Adelphi. I can't even name them all because there's so many of them. We're concentrated here. The other thing I find, because I talk to young people as well, a lot of times I think young people take it for granted what they know. I'm kind of in the middle. I kind of was at the start of the tech creation, but people that are younger than me, they grew up with it naturally. So I talk to them sometimes and I say, all the stuff you do on Facebook and other social media, you can help businesses do that. And they don't even realize that it's something they know that's valuable. They just take it for granted well, everyone knows that. Well, that's not true. Everyone, that's my age and older doesn't know it or doesn't know it as well as they do. So I think that's only going to continue to grow, especially like I said, if you partner the technology, for example, with manufacturing or with construction, with healthcare, with hospitality, you really will be in demand. I just want to point out, besides the colleges like St. Joseph's, which do a fantastic job, we're now also seeing other alternatives for people. We work with Hunter Business School. They did a 7.5-month intensive program on web application development. And at the end of that, it wasn't quite an apprenticeship, but it was similar where these students would be placed somewhere for a certain amount of weeks. And we had 3 of them at our place in Plainview. And at the end of it, one of them got hired. So there's things like that happening that, really help connect people that can do the work with the jobs that are out there. And I think we really need to make more of that happen. But, as far as technology, yes, it's one of the hot growing sectors, especially, like I said, combine it with healthcare and other things.
Thank you, Paul. Of course, Michael and Xavier, you work in the service sector. So tell us, do you see the growth in the service sector, in your workplaces of employment and when you were doing your internships? What do you see?
I feel there's an absolute growth. Just going off what he said with IT, I focus with security IT, doing all of that, and it's an industry that's constantly growing. We're always going to need healthcare and things of that such.
All right, Xavier.
Technology in healthcare is huge. Working in a nursing rehab, we're switching over to electronic medical record to get reimbursement from the government. And that implementation has been tough because being a young person, technology is fine. I'm on social media, my phone, I use it constantly, but people that are not familiar, employees like CNAs or nurses that are used to paper charts that have been working in the field for years now are told you have to document on the computer everything you do, medicine. So complying with that has been difficult, but healthcare is technology driven with constant new implementations and innovations.
Thank you, Xavier. Just a little note aside, they recently did a study last year for college graduates who have liberal arts degrees. And they found out that a college graduate who has one technical skill, such as being able to be on social media or operate social media or build a basic website such as Squarespace, they get 90% of being hired at a living wage right out of college within the first year. So if you're thinking about college, you may want to consider also what kind of, some kind of cool skill you have that's in technology. I'm going to now move and take an unusual move and go to Dr. Gail Lamberta, because I want her to speak about the areas of growth in service on Long Island. And as the Dean of the Community Affairs and also the chair of the program in hospitality at St. Joseph's, she will have a good idea. So she's going to give you 2 minutes, 3 minutes about what are the good areas of growth on Long Island.
Thank you, Natalia. Okay, I didn't know how to answer this question, but bottom line, 2 areas of major growth are healthcare and leisure. And we see that on Long Island, and our program, one of the things that we had done initially when we had seen this coming down the pike in 2012, we created our hospitality and tourism management program to encompass a concentration in healthcare hospitality. No one knew what that was. We had seen it because we knew that the Press Ganey scores from our hospitals ranked us at number 49 across the United States. That's where New York ranked in customer satisfaction. Now we have a vice president for experience at Northwell. They're hiring constantly. I was at a meeting last week, and that's actually how Michael certainly got his job and his internship. I was at a meeting last week, and they're asking me for more interns, because all the hospitals are going to have these concierge services. They're going to look at not just the medical care that people are getting, but it's more holistic today. How were the families treated? Did you get a hot meal when you wanted it, not at noon necessarily, and so on and so forth. So we see tremendous growth in this particular area. And that all relates to reimbursement on Medicare and Medicaid. So hospitals, and you read it in Newsday, have been losing a lot of money. So we're looking to improve upon that, which is only going to help the economic growth here. Tourism, travel and tourism, a big area. You probably have read about that on Long Island. A huge impact on our economy. We have a lot of natural assets here, so those are all to our advantage. We have a number of hotels. In fact, over the past few years, we put 20 new hotels online. There are new ones still being built, and their occupancy level is really probably probably about 80 to 90% during the season, and then off-season we're doing other initiatives like Winterfest out east. We're trying to move through different initiatives so that we become a 12-year service. So if you take a look at Suffolk and Nassau counties, it's interesting. 80% of the people in Nassau County, those hotels are being occupied by people that are coming here for business, as opposed to Suffolk County where 80% is for leisure. So there's a little bit of a difference in terms of how we're marketing. I do want to just say, based on listening to this panel, and certainly thank all the panelists. I happen to work with all of them, including my 2 students. But one of the things that really I hope that the students, especially the high school students, as well as our college students that are here today, that the takeaway is there are different pathways to your success. So we're not saying, I'm in higher education, I'm not telling you you have to go to college. I'm also not saying to you that you're going to go through an apprenticeship program and eventually not go to college, okay? Because we find a lot of people go through the apprenticeship and then they move on, they take some courses at night, they get a college degree, they move into more administrative positions at that point. So, you know, college is not for everyone, but for many of you, certainly our students here, you do have opportunities. I do want to commend my colleagues here, and certainly Frank Petrone and Opportunities Long Island, because guess what? St. Joseph's College secured a grant from the Long Island Regional Economic Development Council. We had an opportunity through the Huntington Opportunity Resource Center to actually train people and work with them to ensure that they were able to pass those exams and become part of the workforce. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And on that note, I would like to recognize someone who's going to do a lot for the future of young people on Long Island and already is doing as an educator. Supervisor-elect of Town of Huntington, Chad Lupinacci, currently still New York State Assemblyman. We want to thank you very much for bringing your students here today for the panel, as it was last year too. At this point, I want to open the floor for the questions, because I think questions are cool and our panelists would love to answer them. I'm going to start with that person. They went up first, and you'll be next. So just give us your name, and don't worry, I'll come to you.
Hi, my name is Sharina Salaj, and I am part of Amityville School District, and I'm very happy to be here today. What I was thinking when the panelists were speaking, I do think that we both agree that the future generation needs to be exposed to so many more opportunities. Because the demand for technology and construction is so high, I believe that we should start reaching back into the foundations, especially in the K through 12 years of our lives. And I'm very fortunate to be part of Amityville, because I've actually seen a lot more opportunities being brought into the surface. For example, there's a tech community event that's actually being placed in our school, and these people are being able to be presented with so many different opportunities and finding out what they want in engineering. And I tutored a kid that was talking about his experience, and his interest was what made me so excited, because he's wanting to take the opportunities, and I'm very happy that, you know, we can see in Amityville this growth.
So one of the lessons that we take from your comment is that we should go to schools early, very early, which is true. Before we used to not do that. All right, I had another person here who had a question, and please think of more questions. We want to be working our panelists to the max.
I'd like to refer to a comment made by Jamie, which to me is one of the most important things I heard here today. Ask for a walk around. I come in contact with lots of students and also not so young people who are looking for employment, and asking for a walk around in any kind of company or professional service firm is so critical, because you are not an email or a piece of paper. and you can develop a relationship within the community beyond your friends and family. I can't think of a better way for you to make a presence, students here, than to contact companies that interest you, whether it's up your alley or not, and get known. And send a thank you note, handwritten, even better. So to me, that's a critical comment of getting beyond high school, getting beyond college.
Give us your name, please.
Oh, my name is Mindy Wolfley, and I'm the Chief Marketing Officer for Vishnick McGovern Melizio Law Firm, and I'm the President of Neptune Marketing. You are all marketers.
Before you do walk-in, please make your resume look good. I'm going up that way. Well, I'm going to go to Steve because he's in the first, and then I'm going to go to a young person. Absolutely. I will not forget about you. Steve is very charismatic. He was one of our panelists last year, I believe.
Well, you're too kind. I just wanted to thank everyone for coming out of the panel. When I first started, let me introduce myself first. I'm Stephen Delegati. I'm the Director of Workforce Development for the town of Oyster Bay. And when I first started in my position, I didn't really know too many people. And I came to an event, this event actually, a few years back, and I was asked to speak on a panel. So it was difficult for me. I was nervous, but the connections that I made by speaking on the panel have helped me in my career up to this point. So Ryan said that I helped him develop Opportunities Long Island, and I wouldn't have been able to work with Ryan and many of the other people on the panel here without coming to an event like this. So I think you guys are on the right path, especially our younger students, and you're in the right place. So thank you all for coming. A comment also that I had was, well, let's go to the question, and this is for the panel. How can the people in the room become more involved in your organization? Because I think that we have great resources here on Long Island, but we don't market it well. So we find that in workforce development, we have a lot of projects going on, we have a lot of funding availability, we have great staff. My staff is here, right here, and we don't do a great job of letting everybody know about all the resources we have on Long Island. So if the panel can answer this, what are some ways that the group here can get involved in your organizations and learn more about that?
Thank you, Stephen.
All right, so you hit right on my stump speech. Okay. So the way I put it is Long Island has a heck of a lot to offer, but we are way behind in support structure. So if you're going to Toys R Us and you're looking at the jigsaw puzzles, you see these ones from North Carolina and South Carolina, Kentucky, Arizona, Georgia, Colorado, that look really shiny and they look really good. And when you open them up, the pieces actually kind of work together. When you see New York's, it's kind of shabby, but the pieces are really freaking well made when you finally open it up. We've got all of these things in place. We've got wonderful students, we've got great families, we've got great educational institutions, we've got great companies. What we don't have is a group of, well, what we do have is great nonprofits as well and great government agencies. What we don't have is great coordination of them. So it's very easy when you go to South Carolina, I'm from Charleston, so I know, to basically say, okay, what do we have here? If I'm moving my company to South Carolina, what am I getting? How am I going to get my workforce? Where am I going to go to educate my current employees? Where do I go for housing, et cetera? Very simple. They lay it out for you. In fact, if you go to Charleston as a company, not only does the mayor come out to see you, but the governor comes down from Columbia. Good luck getting that on Long Island. So we've got our work cut out for us. But all the component pieces are there. So one of the things we need to do, I think, is to put together the school associations, put together the town of Oyster Bay and Islip and Huntington, get them engaged with organizations that can span the gap. So not necessarily coming to a manufacturing consortium or Long Island meeting for you guys, but engaging in robotics, engaging in your town your chambers of commerce, et cetera. And then through them, they can engage with us and introduce you to opportunities. So my big thing is just get out. Very much like go ask the companies for a walkthrough, go find out how you can get involved in the community. And through that, through your churches, through your other organizations, they'll get you involved with groups like us.
We have our website, listnet.org, and you could go on there and see events we do on a regular basis. A good one for young people to come to, we do something called Tech Showcase, where we have some of our member companies kind of present what they do. It's a great chance to meet some people and do some future networking. We have a Facebook page and Twitter if you prefer that to the website, but just get out there and meet some of these tech companies. They love to meet young people, even if you're in high school now. I mean, you never know where those connections are gonna lead to in the future. I encourage you to check out our website and events that we do to help you connect with some of these people.
So Paul, all of them can come to you and take your card and send you an email.
Yes. Okay. Wait, hold on. Wait. You can. I don't know if I have enough cards for everyone, but you can email me at paul@listnet.org. Very simple.
Thank you.
Yeah, so when people think about construction, they only know typically about one or two trades. So first, I would say do a little homework. Figure out what you think you might like. Construction isn't just plumbing and electrical. I'm sure those two, actually I know those two local unions are here, so they'll probably be very upset that I'll be talking about some other trades, but I mean, there's ironwork, there's sheet metal, and Jamie was talking about construction and manufacturing not being what you traditionally think. Well, sheet metal, the local does CAD, so not only are they doing the actual the installation, but they do fabrication and create a lot of the things that the manufacturing sector utilizes. But the question was, how do you get more involved? Well, I'm potentially, if not entirely, preaching to the choir because we partner with not only community organizations like the Huntington Opportunity Resource Center, Workforce Development Board out of Oyster Bay, but with the elected officials in the community. So you may not traditionally think, let me reach out to my local elected officials, but they're on the ground level. They're public servants. They don't, contrary to public opinion, they're not in it for the money. They're in it largely, at least the good ones, because they want to serve the community they come from, particularly your elected officials. And we have some sitting elected officials and Suffolk County Legislator-elect Rudy Sunderman, who should get a round of applause, and Huntington Supervisor-elect Chad Lupinacci, who dedicate their careers, their lives to serving their community. So reach out to those people because largely they're the ones that are invested in organizations like Opportunities Long Island. They allow us to get off the ground to be able to provide you the opportunities to have a career and not just a job.
Excellent, thank you. Now I'm going back to that person who had a question. That was you, right? Okay, I'm coming up.
Hi, my name is Doug Grollo. I'm a student at St. Joseph's. I'm going to keep it brief. I'm only a few years out of high school, and I have a younger sibling who's currently in high school. We've never heard of any of this ever. It's always go to college or you're not gonna achieve anything. How do you plan on changing that? Because all the websites, all Facebook, that's all well and good, but if we never even heard about it, we're not gonna find it. So what do you plan on doing to make that different?
Better outreach needed. You guys want to answer that? All right.
Can everybody in the back hear me?
Yeah.
All right, so very quickly, we largely rely on our graduates. I keep referring to Huntington because our program largely has become a feeder unto itself. We have a number of graduates from Huntington that have been success stories. And we have graduates from different communities, Brentwood, Central Islip, Hempstead, that are all doing very well. But in Huntington, our graduates have communicated with one another the different opportunities that have been made available. One of our graduates was living in a homeless shelter and has 3 children and a wife. They're now out on their own
because of the career, and you would never know that unless you happen to know the person. So I talk about reaching out to elected officials. If you're a graduate, if you're a potential applicant, you should come see me before you leave. There are a number of information sessions before the year is out. We'll make sure you have that information. But keep showing up to events like this, communicate with your community organizations, and if you're the recipient of any one of these opportunities, whether it's in the construction industry, manufacturing, or tech, don't be selfish. Talk about it. Tell your friends, tell your family. I mean, at the end of the day, we're a population of over 3 million people here on Long Island, but it's a small island. And just by telling friends and family, a lot of things manage to make their way through communities. Unfortunately, sometimes misinformation. Let's make sure that the good opportunities and the good things that are getting out there too.
So I'll throw my 2 cents in as well. You're coming in at kind of a change in the tides. And about 5 years ago, I would have answered your question by saying it's actually on you to find out. You have to go out and you have to learn about this. Yes, the schools do a very good job of it as best they can to engage, but getting somebody from industry to come out and talk at a job fair is very difficult. Their work, specifically on Long Island with the business climate that's here, they're working to get product out the door, get services out the door, and make sales. So they're not able to go to 124 school districts and talk to students because that basically would take up half their year. So it's on you guys. Now, here's the interesting thing for you guys. Since the tides are changing, and you guys are going to be the ones who they are searching for because there will be a dearth of employees for them to go out and get, skilled employees, you will start to see people reaching out. I think that we've got a lot of people who are doing it already. They may not have gotten to your school system yet. We'll be improving on that. You'll be seeing a lot more use of social media. Number one, the old fogies like me are actually learning how to use it, or they're retiring. And the new guys are coming along and learning how to get to you guys and get the information to you. So I think you'll start to see more and more of that.
It is also the school systems, because some systems have dedicated administrators and teachers who would bring their students here and who stay in a connection. And some school systems are very isolated, and they don't necessarily welcome anybody to come and talk, or they just don't want to spend the time, which doesn't do a good service to their students or to Long Island, because Long Island does need that connection and exchange of information where students would know where they can go to find living jobs on Long Island. I have a couple more questions here. My God, I have 3 over here. I have Ron over there and another 2 students. We're gonna go like quickly now, so just 1 minute if you can. I'll go the other way.
My name is Avery Surt. I'm a student at Suffolk Community in Selden. And you mentioned at the beginning of the panel that a lot of millennials, these 18 to 25 ages on the North Shore specifically, are leaving Long Island, this brain drain that we're experiencing. This isn't happening on the Central and Northern Shore. And you see this especially a lot in areas like Brentwood and Hempstead and Islip. These places that have very dense, low-income households and high minority populations. And with opportunities on Long Island, that presentation that you presented to us, I noticed that a lot of the employees were places from like Hempstead and Islip. So my question is, what exactly are you guys doing to reach out to these communities as opposed to just staying on the northern white Long Island with like households of 90K and more?
They already talked about what they're doing to reach, but now it's Paul.
So we have something that hopefully is going to come through that we're very excited about. We're working with New York State and Suffolk County to do something in the Wyandanch Village project. And we're going to create something called a digital ballpark, which we have in Plainview. It'll be an event and co-working space. So we are making an effort to make that happen. I think things like that need to happen to say, yes, you can do these things in these communities and try to bring people along and not leave people behind. So that's one small effort that we're doing. Hopefully we get announced, the funding gets announced, this all goes through, but something I'm very excited about and I believe could help make a difference.
Yeah, I'll keep talking here, sorry. So the households that you're talking about on the North Shore, et cetera, we need to engage them as well. You know, I'm sorry, but not everyone is going to be a doctor and a lawyer. I got a couple of kids in the honors, and I got one kid who's going to be a welder. So the honors kids, I'm teaching them how to work machines, because I'm sorry, there are only so many professors that can go around. But walking about 400 shop floors over the last 3 years, sorry. Professors are a good job too. But walking 400 shop floors, I see those kids. You know, I'm seeing kids from the Wyandanch area, Brentwood, et cetera. You have a work ethic, number one. You have a drive and a passion that manufacturers are thrilled to get. My concern is that we get out to you all in the K-12, speaking to what was spoken to before, and not only say the jobs are available, but say the careers are available. When you go into that job, you're not going to be doing assembly for the rest of your life. Some people, maybe that's fine. It's okay, and if you're happy with it, that's great. What I would stress to you is treat every job like, what is the next level? What's the next step I can take? How do I grow? And most importantly, if you listen to the statistics that are coming out nowadays, I think 98% of manufacturing companies across the United States are small businesses. Learn how that company makes money and think about how can I potentially start my own company? How can I move up? How do I help this company make money? Either go up in the ranks and learn how to take over there, or learn how to create your own. That's the way to success. So I would push on that. The other thing is, I know, be quick here. But the other thing that we have to do from a legislative standpoint and political standpoint is we have to find some way to get to Albany and introduce them to the concept that it's been said here. Not everybody needs to go to college. You may pay high schools based on their college acceptance rates. But we need to look at skill sets, we need to look at careers, and we need to reward high schools for putting people into places that they can succeed.
So real quick, I mean, your question was targeted towards specific communities, and we are largely funded by funding streams that are geared towards making sure we recruit from those communities, and those communities are largely what's slated for redevelopment right now. So not to give everybody from those communities responsibility, but I would say, again, bring it back to the public sector, we need to demand of our elected officials, and frankly, in the workplace, we need to demand of employers good wages and benefits, and that's a principle of the labor movement, because in order to have stronger communities, we need to build community wealth. I talked about some of the numbers related to what our graduates are making and their success stories, but I'll talk about the program in and of itself. We enrolled 21 students in 2017. We graduated 86% of those enrollees. Of those graduates, just shy of 90% were placed. So when we're able to engage with the community, we're having a very, very high success rate. And for those that work in the field of workforce development, they understand that that is an exceptionally high number in terms of success. So we're going to do our part, and we're going to continue to communicate, and we're going to reach out to those communities. We need you guys to talk about it, and we need you to demand it of the rest of your community, that this is something that you support, that you believe in, and that you want, because you want stronger communities.
And they are hearing your voice today. So today is one of the forums where we can make a difference. So I'm going to go to the student who raised her hand 3 times, and it's time for her to ask a question.
Hello, my name is Anna Candia. I'm an Amityville High School student, and I want to ask a question. Usually construction jobs are like male-oriented, and I wonder how would you encourage women to take construction jobs?
How would you encourage a woman to take a construction job?
I'm waiting because I'm thinking
Yeah,
of
I
my
know.
answer.
Go ahead.
I mean, you're not wrong in that women are underrepresented in the construction industry. What I'd say is there are organizations, not just like Opportunities Long Island, but there's an organization called Non-Traditional Employment for Women, where it's geared towards specifically recruiting women into the industry. We're happy to have women in the industry. And one of the things I appreciate most about the labor movement is that collective bargaining agreements are sacred. And we talk about wage disparity in this country, and maybe I should talk about it more because it doesn't exist when there's a collective bargaining agreement. If you do this work, you get this wage. It doesn't matter if you're male, female, 27 or 37, you are paid for the work that you're doing. So maybe I should talk about that more, and maybe our movement should talk about that more, but there are organizations geared towards recruiting women, and maybe we just have to do a better job of making people aware of why it's beneficial to be part of the labor movement.
Thank you, Ryan. More people I had. I had Ron somewhere there with a question, right? And then another young person wanted to ask a question. All right. So, Ron Royal.
Hi, I'm Ron Roel. I've done a lot of work with Natalia and Eric, actually. Vision Long Island used to be the real estate and Act 2 editor at Long Island, at Newsday, rather. I just want to make a really quick comment. I noticed that Yavi and Michael, you came from Rhode Island, right?
Yes.
And you grew up in Long Island?
Yes.
Yes. So you guys are the template for what I'm talking about. Is that when people, golden age people like me, worry about keeping their kids here, that's not really the question. The question is, how do we create an environment that is attractive to young people, whether they come from Long Island or Rhode Island? I'm sure people from Rhode Island say, why are you leaving Rhode Island to go to Long Island? Because there are jobs here, and because there are opportunities for you here. The real question is, I think, is there housing for you here, and is there a sense of place here? Brooklyn became hot not because parents from Brooklyn said, oh, I gotta keep our kids here. It got hot because it became a cool place to live. And there are cool places to live here, like Huntington. People come from all over land to Huntington, not because they live in Huntington, because it's a cool place to be. So the one thing I just want to leave you with is the key piece for me is housing. There's not enough affordable housing for young people that they can start in terms of rentals and condos and so forth. And the question that was raised, and I'll end with this, at the panel was, well, what's affordable housing? And the question, if you look at what the median income for Long Island is, the median income is $83,000, but that's for a family of 4. Like 2 income earners like you, Ryan, that's your family. That's not helpful to you guys. What you need to do is you need to look at what is the prize demographic for a lot of advertisers, 18 to 34, look at the median income for that demographic and take that median income and take 30% of that. Because you don't want to spend more than 30% of your housing. And that's the figure you need on an annual basis, divide by 12, and you get what your monthly income is, housing. Then you guys need to say to people, do you guys have housing for that income range? That's how you do it.
And this is an excellent answer to the questions that Joy actually avoided answering at the end of the panel, which is what would it be, the affordable housing for someone who is younger? I mean, she answered it for herself, but looking for a younger person. So do we have one more question? And then we will finish up, because of course we will have the next panel coming. Okay, we have a very short comment.
Short comment to answer your question. High schools now are moving toward what we call CTE programs. They are accredited by New York State Ed, and what they are career and technical education programs that will help to link what you're talking about in terms of other opportunities to unions, to manufacturing, and technology-driven fields. Okay, so just so that you know, we're moving in that direction, and the state also supports those pathways.
So there is progress.
Hi, so I work with youth in Suffolk County specifically, most of them with criminal charges, which is, I mean, you already know, right? Impossible to get at that point any type of employment. But one of the things that is important to me is work, because when I was 14, I started working. That's what kept me out of trouble. Maria Regina actually was my first job ever. So for me, one of the things that I try to do is try to get them employed. Impossible. And a lot of the organizations and places that are saying they're doing it, the wait list takes forever. So I lose a lot of my kids in the intern process. And I can't afford that. And they can't afford that. So my question to you is, how accessible is it actually if I come to you tomorrow and say, hey, by the way, I have 12 kids. How do we get them employed? How fast can that happen?
The answer we will have to hear in private, because the next panel is banging on the door, I was just told. So I would like to thank very much our panelists. Let's give them a big round of applause.